Right, so why would I...
So, a question for me. Earth doesn't turn under the helicopter, Ed. But you think it does at 15 degrees an hour. So non-stop fundy muting in a total ignorance after a... Right. Yeah, that's right, Ed. Earth should turn under that helicopter and it doesn't.
You are
You are getting pummeled! Appeal to mute button fallacy. Yeah, you're getting it and you don't have to like it. Earth, according to you, turns under helicopters. Utter nonsense. And I'm pummeling it. Appeal to the mute button all you like while I teabag your stupid claim that Earth turns under helicopters. It doesn't.
Are you done?
Done pummeling your argument? Yeah, I'll do it all day, mate. You fundies on the globe side think Earth turns underneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour. That means Earth turns underneath helicopters at 15 degrees an hour. No, they can hover. So no, Earth isn't turning underneath hovering helicopters. And this fundy will ask me to justify how it doesn't happen in the globe model when it's claimed it does. You fundies have got 15 degrees an hour of Earth turning underneath helicopters, and it doesn't happen.
So you changed your argument, now the helicopter is suddenly moving? That's not what you said before.
No, it's your claim, your example, your hovering helicopter, and according to the claim that globe Earth spins, it's supposed to turn underneath the helicopter at a rate of 15 degrees an hour, and I keep asking you why that isn't happening. You're just never answering. Saying I'm changing my claim. I don't claim Coriolis. This isn't my claim, Ed, it's yours. Your claim that Earth turns under the helicopter, and I'm asking why your claim Earth turns under the helicopter isn't happening. You just yet to answer. I'll tell you why it isn't happening. Because Earth isn't spinning. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate.
Right, so in the globe model, according to Coriolis, if the helicopter is hovering above your head, in the globe model, why is there no deviation then in the globe model, Nathan?
There is deviation in the globe model. You don't understand your own model. You have 15 degrees of deviation as Earth turns underneath it, Ed. You don't understand your own model. You're stupid.
Right, so this is the same as...
So why are you asking me what deviation wouldn't be expected to be seen when there is expected to be Earth turning underneath a helicopter, but it doesn't, Ed? So I'm going to ask you a question. Given I've just answered you, I'd like you to answer me a question. Given that it's expected Earth would turn under a helicopter at 15 degrees an hour as a second reference frame, why doesn't that happen, Ed? Given that that's what you'd expect to see on a turning Earth. Why doesn't it happen? Why don't we see drift, Ed?
Gravity.
You didn't answer my question. Because
I did answer your question. Scumbag, I did answer your question. I did answer your question. You asked me in the globe model how much drift wouldn't we expect to see, and I said you would. I did answer you. Now I'd like you to answer my question.
I'm trying to explain something. You're funny muting
I answered your question.
Nathan,
I'm not muting you. I am not muting you, but you're ignoring any rebuttal. You're fundy muting me now, Ed.
Yes,
you're fundy muting me. Ed,
Ed,
you're a cunt. What a bastard. What a total bastard. Total bastard.
No, Nathan, I was trying to explain something and you cut me off.
No, you went to ask a new question. I asked you a question and you ignored it.
No, I was trying to explain something and you
No, you weren't. You were asking me a new question. I answered your question. I'll summarise it. See if you fundy mute me the whole time.
No, you didn't answer.
So you're now going to fundy mute this entire summary. You're going to fundy mute the entire summary, Ed?
Actually, you're fundy muting me.
Yeah, you're going to fundy mute this entire summary.
You're fundy muting me.
No, I'm trying to summarise the position that's just occurred. And you won't shut up anymore. You just will not shut up.
Answer my question.
No, I'd like you to shut up, Ed. Let's see if you'll tolerate me summarising the situation. You asked me how much drift... No, you're fundy muting me. You won't let me summarise it. What a wanker.
You're fundy
scared?
muting me.
You scared, wanker? You scared? I'll try again.
For a minute.
No, Nathan, you are
he's fundy muting me constantly. What a scumbag. So I'll try and summarise it.
I was trying to explain something.
Every time I say I'll try and summarise it, Ed fundy mutes me.
You're projecting.
What a scumbag. So you won't tolerate a decent debate, Ed. You've got to fundy mute every word of my summary. I'll try again.
No, you're
Sixth
just
time.
projecting.
Sixth
I was trying to explain something.
What a scumbag. Sixth attempt. Scared of his dying globe religion being pummeled. Sixth attempt.
Projection.
Seventh. So you're going to constantly fundy mute this, Ed? Seventh attempt. So, Ed asked me how much drift I would expect not to see in the globe model. I replied to his question, in the globe model, you would expect to see 15 degrees an hour of drift as Earth rotates underneath as a second reference frame. That was me answering Ed's specific question. I've answered his question. Now I'd like Ed to answer a question of mine, but instead we've had about 5 or 6 minutes of fundy muting. So my question to you, Ed, given that we've established, as per your question to me about the heliocentric model you don't understand, that we would expect to see 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath the helicopter, why don't we see 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath the helicopter when Earth isn't turning under the helicopter and we're not seeing drift, as you on the globe side say we should?
No, that's a straw man. So please refine your question.
What? Explain how it's a straw man.
You can ask something else.
Fuck you! Just because my nuts are in your mouth, you don't get to change the subject. Yeah? You have a claim that Earth turns underneath that helicopter. I'm asking, why isn't it drifting? And you're saying ask a different question? You can suck my nuts. Why isn't it drifting, coward?
Oh, thanks.
Coward! That's my question. I answered his question, ladies and gentlemen. Why wouldn't we see drift in the globe model? We would. 15 degrees an hour. So, in rebuttal, why aren't we seeing that 15 degrees an hour drift, Ed? Ask another question. No, mate, I'll tell you. We're not seeing that drift because there isn't any. Even though you'd expect there to be 15 degrees an hour as we turn underneath that helicopter, we're not. There is no 15 degrees an hour drift, you fundy muting scumbag.
I'm scared of my answers.
Fundy muting scumbag. I'm summarising the demolition. And he's fundy muting every fucking word of it. That's all these cowards have got these days. I summarise the position he asks me about the globe model, a position I don't hold. I summarise the position succinctly. You'd expect 15 degrees an hour drift, as is absolutely asserted to be the case. I ask him why we don't see it, and it's constant fundy muting. And a declaration that I should ask a different question? No. Earth does not turn underneath the helicopter, but you fundies think it does. It just doesn't.
Well, Nathan, I was now in Discord. Can't hear a thing you say because he just talks and talks and talks and doesn't.
Yeah,
you're out of questions, Ed.
Yeah. So what he's doing, basically, Flatzoid, is saying, if I listen to the succinct summary of the position I'm relinquishing, with Earth turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour, I might have to address it.
The problem is he just doesn't want to address it.
Maybe he's here to debunk it, like he's been doing the whole time.
Yeah, he's debunking it. When you talk about a hovering helicopter, Ed, you're debunking the claim that Earth turns underneath. That's going to require a lot of fundy muting and a lot of an attempt from your side to keep in control by asking me questions the whole time. Yet I answer a question about how the globe model works, and does he answer a question in return? No. He asks me to answer him, or ask him a different question to answer. Right, Ed? Why isn't the helicopter drifting at 15 degrees an hour, Ed? Why isn't the helicopter drifting at 15 degrees an hour as it's claimed to do on a globe Earth that spins, Ed?
Yeah, I need clarification. Does the helicopter in your example have momentum?
It's claimed Earth turns underneath it, Ed. And if it's hovering, Earth isn't turning underneath it, Ed. So I'm asking you, why isn't Earth turning underneath it, Ed, given that's what your claim is supposed to have happen?
Answer it both ways.
And I told you, I need clarification. Does the helicopter have momentum, yes or no?
When it's hovering, it's relatively stationary in its position. It's hovering. So momentum, no, we're going to say it's hovering, Ed. In a theoretical example, with Earth claimed to turn underneath it, Ed. And I'm asking you for the third time with you actually listening and not fundy muting me, why isn't Earth turning underneath the helicopter at 15 degrees an hour, Ed? Need
So the
clarity?
helicopter has no momentum.
You keep asking me about the momentum of the helicopter, and Coriolis deflection is an observation from the ground of you seeing it seem to drift away. So it's got nothing to do with the momentum. Coriolis effect is you observing it seem to drift away, and I'm asking why it isn't seeming to drift away at 15 degrees an hour. Fifth time with you listening.
Yeah, and you're not being clear in your question. That's
Very clear. Why isn't the helicopter drifting away at 15 degrees an hour? Couldn't be more clear. It's supposed to on a globe Earth that spins. That's the claim.
yeah, and I told you 4 times. I need clarification. Does the helicopter have momentum? Yes or no?
It's hovering. Relatively speaking, it's stationary in its position. It's hovering, Ed. It's your example of a hovering helicopter. Not flying. Not moving off its course. Hovering. So, no, Ed. In your example of a hovering helicopter, no, Ed. It's just hovering. But it's claimed, by your side, that Earth turns underneath that helicopter that's hovering at 15 degrees an hour, Ed. For us to see it seem to deviate from the ground, that would be it seeming to drift away at 15 degrees an hour, Ed. And I'm asking you, the one who's got this claim, that we turn underneath helicopters, that's 15 degrees an hour deviation, why that isn't happening. Because that's the thing that's supposed to prove we spin. Why isn't that happening, Ed?
To simplify that,
You're talking about deviation. You're talking about deviation again, and how can there be deviation when there's zero movement?
So Earth isn't turning then. So if there isn't deviation, Earth isn't turning underneath as is claimed then. So Earth isn't turning underneath as is claimed. So we don't have a proof of Earth spin in the form of Coriolis deflection then, because Earth isn't spinning and there isn't any deflection then, Ed.
There is. The helicopter is moving with the Earth.
So that's not deflecting and deviating at 15 degrees an hour then. So Coriolis deviation is us observing it seem to drift away, Ed. It seems you don't understand what Coriolis effect is. It's you observing things seem to drift away from you, Ed. So you're debunking the claim that Earth spins underneath to give you a 15 degrees an hour deflection. That would be the helicopter drifting away from you. You're debunking the 15 degrees an hour drift then, Ed.
What's the definition of deviation?
Why are you asking me a question? You're debunking drift at 15 degrees an hour then. It's supposed to drift away from you at 15 degrees an hour, Ed, and you're debunking that. Not a question for me. Shit your pants acknowledgement that you've debunked your own claim.
So you don't know what deviation means?
Yeah, it means you observe it seem to drift away at 15 degrees an hour, and I keep asking you why that's not happening. And you've told me that it's moving with the ground. Well, that's not deflecting then. That still leaves the same question unanswered. Why isn't it deflecting, Ed? It's supposed to have the Earth move underneath it, Ed.
The definition. Yeah, so you're funny.
Do you hear that? Do you hear that quiver in his voice? Now he started listening. He knows he's fucked.
Again.
You know you're fucked now, don't you, Ed?
Are you that scared?
No, but you are. I can hear it in your voice. Yeah, that's what I'm pointing out. You sound terrified because we're at the point where you'll either start fundy muting me again. Oh, shocker, outside. He is going to start fundy muting me again because you're terrified. I'm asking you why we don't see the helicopter drift and it's fundy mute at the same point. You know you're fucked.
Nobody is scared of you.
You are.
No, because what's the definition of deviation, Nathan?
That'd be one reference frame. Oh, I'm not going to get a chance to answer. Fundy mute the answer, maybe? Yeah, you're terrified of me, Ed. I know you are.
He's letting you answer. Just answer the question.
Who said that? Sorry?
Nakes, just answer the question.
Just answer the question.
Nakes, you can suck my balls. I run this show. So, Ed. Ed.
Yes, what's the answer, Nathan?
The answer is Earth's supposed to deviate. You're supposed to have an observation from the ground of the helicopter drifting away from you. That would be it drifting away from you, and it isn't, Ed. And I keep asking you why it isn't, and you're not answering me. Are you scared of my question?
You refuse to clarify what's the definition of deviation?
I haven't. I've clarified it. It would be you observing it drift away from you. Are you thick? I've clarified it 3 times. You're dense. Oh, apologies. He's just fucking stupid. I've clarified it for you, Ed. It's you observing it seem to drift away, and I'm asking why it isn't drifting away as Earth turns underneath, for us to observe it deflect. Not actual deflection, just seem to drift away as it hovers. That isn't happening, though, Ed. It's supposed to happen on a globe Earth that spins, and I'm asking you, the claimant, with Earth turning underneath 15 degrees drift, unless you want to debunk it again, why that isn't happening, Ed.
You use drift in your definition of deviation. What does drift mean?
It's not actual deflection. It's seeming to move when it isn't. That's the drift. Drifting away from you, Ed. And I keep asking, why isn't the helicopter drifting away at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator? That's what's supposed to happen and isn't. But you keep obfuscating and deflecting the question onto a different question, asking me to detail what drift means, even though I've clarified it 4 times. That would be the helicopter going up and hovering, but seeming to move away from you. That would be drifting away, Ed. And I'm asking, why isn't Earth turning underneath the helicopter for it to appear to drift away? Why doesn't that happen? Because that's the thing that's claimed to prove Earth spins, and yet it doesn't happen, Ed. You're yet to answer this question. Maybe ask me to define what drift means again. I'll clarify it before you open your gob. It means it's supposed to be moving away. It isn't. Why isn't it? It's supposed to on a globe Earth that spins. 6th repetition with you listening.
No, drift does not mean it moves away from you.
You're a fuckwit. That's precisely what it moves. Yeah? Moves away as you observe it from a turning reference frame underneath it. That's drift. Not actual deflection. Meaning it seems to do something that it isn't. Means it seems to be moving away at 1,000 miles an hour on a claim to be spinning Earth. Of course, we don't observe that effect. That is drift. You're just stupid. You don't know what drift is. Means it's drifting away. You're a moron.
Drift does not mean moving away. Otherwise, it would just be moving.
Yeah, deflecting.
So you have to be...
Yeah, you can use deflecting. Whatever word you like, Ed. The semantics of this word doesn't change the fact that Earth's supposed to be turning underneath helicopters and isn't. Why isn't Earth turning under helicopters?
So how can you be deflecting if you have no...
Yeah, you observing it drift away. That's deflecting. Seems to be curving away from you. Not actually, it's you turning underneath. Yeah, we're supposed to be turning underneath helicopters, Ed. Why aren't we?
So how can there be deflection if the object is standing still?
There can't be. That means Earth isn't turning. So there is no deflection then, Ed. How can there be no deflection if Earth's claimed to turn underneath? Well, there can't be, because Earth isn't turning underneath, Ed. So that debunks Earth turn. Kudos. There isn't any deflection. There's supposed to be 15 degrees of it, though. Why are you asking me about deflection that isn't there when your side claims there's 15 degrees of it, Ed?
You're not answering my question.
Yeah, I am. You're asking me why there wouldn't be drift if you expected there to be some. And I'm saying because there isn't any, even though you expect there to be. You expect Earth to turn underneath and there isn't any. And I'm asking you why that isn't there when you expect to see it. And you're asking me why I wouldn't expect to see it when it isn't there.
No, that's not what I'm asking you. So if you would stop funny muting me, I can actually ask the question.
But your only appeal now.
The question is, how can there be No. Are you really funny muting that soon already? Come on.
Yeah.
Just listen.
It was a two-way conversation till that moment.
Yeah, just listen. So how can there be deflection of movement in an object that's not moving?
Well, how can there be? Well, if you were turning underneath it. If you were turning underneath it, there would be deflection, Ed. So if Earth was turning underneath a helicopter, then there would be deflection. But are you saying there isn't any deflection? Oh, well, then Earth isn't turning underneath it, Ed.
Thank you.
What does deflection mean?
It means it drifts away from you or appears to do something that it isn't as you turn underneath it. So we're back to this, Ed. So what deflection would we expect, or how would we expect to see it? Well, I've answered you, Ed. We'd expect to see it if Earth was turning underneath the helicopter, but we don't see it. So Earth isn't turning under the helicopter as we would expect if Earth was turning, Ed.
This is the same problem you have with the word apparent horizon.
No, this is not my problem. This is your problem, because you've got an Earth that turns, and it's supposed to turn under helicopters. That's your problem. You're yet to answer why that doesn't happen. So I'm going to ask again. We're not going to move on to apparent horizons and a claim that this is my problem. I'm going to ask you again. Why isn't Earth turning underneath to cause the deflection at 15 degrees an hour? Why doesn't Earth turn under helicopters, Ed? You haven't answered. You're going to tell me the question's malformed again? Why isn't Earth turning under the helicopter, Ed?
It sure is.
So we do see Earth turn. So helicopters drift away at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator, do they, Ed? No, they don't.
If you would actually leave Discord off mute, you would hear my complete answer. So again, how can there be
the whole time,
deviation
Ed. Stop.
in movement
Just stop.
if there's no
You haven't
movement?
been muted. You've been talking
You're
the
not
whole
listening,
time, Ed.
and you misunderstand the word deviation. Just like apparent horizon is an apparent of something, and deviation of movement can only happen if there's movement. So if the helicopter hovers above you, so if the helicopter hovers above you, where's the movement for the deviation?
Exactly.
Yeah, so there isn't any then.
Dumbass.
So there isn't any. So Earth isn't moving, Ed. So if it's not deflecting, there isn't any movement. Is that your point?
I didn't ask you about Earth. I asked about the helicopter. You're dodging the question.
No, I'm not. You asked me how we'd induce deflection. Guys in G+, for the love of Christ. You asked me where you'd achieve deflection. Well, if you were turning underneath it, I could achieve it with a roundabout. If the helicopter's below a roundabout, hovering above it, I can see it seem to drift as I turn underneath it. Looks like it's coming towards me, and then it looks like it's going away. Well, that's not actual deflection as I turn underneath. That's drift. Well, it's claimed Earth does that. It claims, you claim, that Earth turns under a helicopter. And I keep asking you why Earth isn't turning under helicopters, given that that's what drift is, you turning underneath. So, why aren't we observing the helicopter seem to drift away as we turn underneath it? That's how you have Coriolis effect. That's your claim. Why aren't we observing that? Keep dodging the question, coward. Why isn't Earth turning under the helicopter, Ed? Why isn't the Earth turning under the helicopter as it is claimed to, Ed? Just me. He's flashing, but I can't hear anything.
Reference frames ruined.
Hold on, Alwyn. And anyone else in Discord here, Ed? Because I can't hear him.
Yeah, it's trash. I can hear him.
He's probably talking with
Okay,
someone
I'll
on
just
Discord.
refresh Discord. Just one sec. Can you hear me, Ed?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Again?
Okay, G+. Keep a lid on it just for a bit. Why isn't Earth turning under the helicopter as it's claimed to, Ed, to give us 15 degrees drift?
That's not a specific claim. So listen to my question.
Yeah,
If the helicopter is not moving, how can there be deviation in the movement of the helicopter that's not moving?
The deviation is observed from the ground. I'm going to have to tell G+ every single time I try and answer. Whoever is doing that in G+, please stop. Ed, for there to be drift, Earth's supposed to turn underneath the helicopter. And it isn't.
That's not what I asked, Nathan. You're focusing on Earth again. I asked about the helicopter.
For there to be drift, you've got to be turning underneath it. That's how you achieve it. I explained it with an example with a roundabout. You haven't accepted it. You haven't acknowledged it. You've said that I'm not explaining it. Yeah, I am. For me to observe that helicopter not actually drift, it would be me on a roundabout underneath it spinning around, looking up at it and going, wow, it looks like it's twirling around. It isn't. It's me turning underneath it. That's Coriolis deflection. Coriolis drift, and not actual deflection observed as you turn underneath stuff. Well, for us to have that on Earth, we're supposed to turn underneath the helicopter, Ed. And I keep asking you over and over, why isn't that happening? And you seem to ask me about how we wouldn't achieve this drift over and over again as a rebuttal. It's not a rebuttal, asking me how we wouldn't achieve the effect you're supposed to have on a globe Earth that spins. We're supposed to have it according to your side. We're supposed to have Earth turning underneath that helicopter, Ed. And I keep asking you why it isn't, and you're not answering me. Why isn't Earth turning under the helicopter, Ed?
I told you several times that's a straw man. You have to answer my question, why there can be deviation in the movement of an object that's not moving. You have to answer that.
Because you
show your understanding of Coriolis.
I have. You have it appearing to deviate.
No, you haven't.
And you're just going to talk through me. You have it appearing to deviate because you turn underneath it. That's Coriolis deflection. I've explained that, what, 5, 6 times? That's how you achieve something that's not actually moving, seeming to move. So for the helicopter to seem to move from an Earth that spins, you need to be observing it from an Earth that spins underneath the helicopter. And I'm asking you for God knows how many times, why is that not happening? Why aren't we turning underneath the helicopter to observe the same effect I could induce by turning underneath it on a roundabout? We're supposed to be turning underneath the helicopter at 15 degrees an hour, and I'm asking you why we don't observe that. And you're still yet to answer.
Because the claim that we should be turning underneath it when the helicopter is standing still above us is a straw man.
No, that's your claim. I'm going to put it up for the audience again as it's been taken down. So for the audience, the object is not actually moving off its course. It only appears to be doing so because the Earth is turning beneath it. That is not a straw man. You are a shit. That is your claim. That you're now claiming is a straw man. What, because I annihilate it by pointing out that Earth doesn't turn under the helicopter, as is precisely claimed by your side? You're going to call that claim that I'm detailing a straw man? You piece of shit. No, it is your claim.
You said something.
Right, why isn't Earth turning underneath the helicopter?
No, let me answer. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you not answering me. 12 times or something I've asked you why Earth isn't turning underneath the helicopter.
No, stop funny muting me, let me explain. You said something very important just now, that the object does appear to go off its course. So, if the helicopter is hovering above your head, which course does it have, dumbass?
It doesn't. It's hovering, according to your example. So the course that it has is stationary.
And then why would you expect to see Coriolis, you fucking idiot?
Eat that mic. Eat that mic. Share your pain.
You're so dumb.
Share your pain.
You're so stupid.
Share it. Cry for me, bitch. Yeah, so according to the citation that the claimant, globe believer, has, is that Earth turns beneath stuff. That's what gives you the effect. So it's not a straw man, you cackling coward. That's your claim that you've said is a straw man.
You're so dumb.
Is that your rebuttal? You're so dumb. No, that's your claim. It's supposed to be turning underneath the helicopter, Earth, Ed, and it isn't.
The object only appears to deviate off its course.
That would be if you... So you're saying we do turn under the helicopter, so helicopters do appear to drift away at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator? No, they don't, Ed. And I keep continually asserting that and telling you that we're not seeing hovering helicopters drift away and appear to go off course. They can hover, and we can watch them hover. They're not moving off course, and I'm asking why they're not, given that you've now conceded that's what they're supposed to do, Ed? They're supposed to drift away, and they're not.
If they're hovering... No, Nathan. If they're hovering above you, what's the course?
It's hovering. There's no course. It's stationary in air. It's in relatively stationary position and not moving at all. But from the ground, it is claimed that it will drift away from us because we're turning underneath. But we're not seeing it drift away. We just watch helicopters hover and drones hover. Earth isn't turning underneath these things, Ed, although you claim that that's precisely what should happen. You've just explained that we're supposed to see deviation. Well, yeah, helicopters should drift away and they don't, Ed. I keep asking you why they don't.
So you just told us that Coriolis is the apparent deviation of its course, and then you told us the helicopter has no course. And now you're asking me this? You are so fucking dumb.
Oh, share your pain. No, it's not moving off its course. That means that the object isn't doing anything out of the ordinary. But what's appearing to happen is deflection because you turn underneath it. So the claim is fairly straightforward, Ed. I've detailed it about 100 times to you on this show. You're supposed to be turning underneath the helicopter. Now, the course, in the case of the helicopter, isn't anywhere. It's hovering. Doesn't have to have a particular travel destination, Ed. It can hover. So it's got no course. It's relatively stationary in its air. But at that point, we're supposed to see it drift away, Ed.
How can there be an
I think he's
apparent
having a
drift
problem with
of its
reference
course
frames.
if there's
Neil,
no course?
I'm not going to ask you again. Go ahead, Ed.
How can there be an apparent drift of its course if there's no course, Nathan?
Oh, because it's claimed Earth turns underneath. It just doesn't happen. In the same way a gyro doesn't have a course. It's spinning in a fixed position. So, likewise, you don't have to have a course in the form of a helicopter that's hovering. And likewise, a gyro doesn't have a course. It's not going anywhere. In fact, it's just spinning in one position. But it's claimed Earth turns underneath it. That's the defining point of this Coriolis deviation, that we'd observe things seem to drift. So in the case of the pendulum, that's not moving either, really, is it? It's just swinging back and forth. But it's claimed Earth turns underneath it, Ed. It's claimed Earth turns underneath the helicopter, Ed. But that doesn't happen, Ed. And I keep asking you why it doesn't happen, even though it's claimed it does by your side. Why isn't Earth turning underneath the helicopter as it's claimed to, Ed?
Did you just say the pendulum doesn't move, but it moves back and forward?
Sorry, Ed, it's not got a travel destination. Yeah? It's not moving to a different location, just swinging back and forth. Sorry, this little straw man, little red herring of obfuscation to avoid the question that's been asked about 16 times. Ed, Earth is supposed to turn underneath helicopters and doesn't. Why doesn't Earth turn underneath helicopters, as it's claimed to at 15 degrees an hour, Ed?
You just said the pendulum doesn't move.
You're not answering my
moves.
question, you coward. Let's try his tact. You're not answering my question, you coward. I asked you a question, you're not answering it, coward. Why isn't Earth turning underneath the helicopter at 15 degrees?
The answer is...
Coward.
Yeah, so then let me finish and don't funny mute me. The answer is, you told us that Coriolis is the apparent deflection of its course. You then told us the helicopter has no course.
No, it's not apparently deviating off it. It would apparently deviate off its course if we were turning underneath it, but we're not. So it's not deviating if it's hovering. So it's not only not moving relatively to its air around it, we're not seeing it drift either, Ed. So it's supposed to look like it's drifting away 1,000 miles an hour on the equator, isn't, and I'm asking you why, given it should on a globe Earth that spins. Still yet to answer.
The necessary antecedent for an object to undergo Coriolis is for it to have a course.
No. It's a not actual deflection as you turn underneath it. It's on screen for my audience still.
Yeah, so you...
Yeah, so you're a moron. So you're wrong. So you're thick. Not yeah, so. No, you're a moron, Ed. You don't understand Coriolis. It's on screen for my audience members. You're thick.
Are you funny muting me again?
No, I'm pointing out you're thick. You're a dumb shit. That's what I'm doing.
No, you're the dumb shit. You gave us the definition.
Yeah. It's your definition of your effect that's supposed to happen but doesn't. Not my definition of an effect I don't claim. I don't claim Earth's supposed to turn underneath these helicopters, Ed. Earth doesn't turn under helicopters. It's supposed to in your rhetoric. I keep asking you why it isn't happening.
Oh, boo-boo. Yeah, so can you read the definition again?
The object is not actually moving off its course.
Go ahead. What's the definition of Coriolis?
No, you're funny muting me, Ed. Funny muting me. I started reading it. The object is not actually moving off its course. It only appears to be doing so because the Earth is turning beneath it. That's what's claimed to happen. That would be Earth turning beneath it, Ed. So I'm asking you, given that your definition is that Earth turns beneath it, why doesn't Earth turn beneath a helicopter, as it's claimed to do in this citation? That's what Earth's supposed to do, and it's not doing it, Ed. Earth's not turning beneath a helicopter, Ed. Why isn't it?
Are you done? The definition you read was that the object only appears to move off its course.
That's right.
So if the object doesn't have a course, what can it be deviating off of, please?
Oh, it can still
that.
appear to deviate off its course, though. So if it's stationary in the air, Ed, it's you observing it moving when it's not moving. That'd be you turning underneath it and seeing it drift away, when in reality it's not moving off its course. So this helicopter's not moving off its course being, I'm going to go up to 30 feet and stay there. That's its course. So it reaches its destination of 30 feet in the air. It's taken its course. It's got there. Then it's stationary. But yet from the ground, it's claimed to drift away from you as you turn underneath it, Ed. And I keep pointing that out. That's Coriolis deflection. It's defined. It's on screen. We're supposed to turn underneath helicopters to prove Earth spins, Ed. 15 degrees. That's how much we're supposed to turn underneath per hour, according to the claim that Earth spins. And that doesn't happen. And I'm asking you constantly, over and over again, and you keep referring me back to your definition that's very specific in describing Earth turning beneath stuff. Why isn't Earth turning beneath a helicopter, Ed?
It's also very specific that it says the object appears to be moving off its course. And you admitted the helicopter doesn't have a course.
No, it didn't. I said it moved up in the air to 30 feet. Its course was 30 feet in the air. Its travel destination was 30 feet. You're a liar and you don't listen. I did give it a course. I gave it a course to 30 feet up in the air. So it had a destination. It took its flight, travelled the course of the flight, but yet from the ground, we're supposed to see it drift away at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator, and that doesn't happen, Ed. Helicopters don't appear to drift away. That would be you turning underneath them, seeing them seem to drift away. Not because they're actually flying away from you. That's the apparent bit. It appears because you're supposed to be turning underneath, and we don't. We don't turn underneath helicopters, Ed. Why not? We're supposed to, according to your globe Earth that spins.
Are you done funny muting? Come on.
Fundy, what are you babbling on about?
So, listen.
You weren't even talking.
Yeah, so...
Why are you claiming I'm fundy muting you when you weren't even fundy muting me?
Because
you weren't even talking. Sorry, do you not know when to throw in a claim of fundy muting? Do you not realise that when you're not talking and I am talking, you're not even interrupting me, that a claim that you're being muted when you're not even bloody talking is ludicrous? Now you're fundy muting me. So was it just a preemptive strike that you were going to talk through my replies to your claim? Ed, why isn't Earth turning underneath the helicopter as it's claimed to?
So you changed your argument, now the helicopter is suddenly moving? That's not what you said before.
No, it's your claim, your example, your hovering helicopter, and according to the claim that globe Earth spins, it's supposed to turn underneath the helicopter at a rate of 15 degrees an hour, and I keep asking you why that isn't happening. You're just never answering. Saying I'm changing my claim. I don't claim Coriolis. This isn't my claim, Ed, it's yours. Your claim that Earth turns under the helicopter, and I'm asking why your claim Earth turns under the helicopter isn't happening. You just yet to answer. I'll tell you why it isn't happening. Because Earth isn't spinning. If Earth was spinning, we'd turn under the helicopter. It's even claimed to be the case. But when you put it to a fundy, why isn't Earth turning underneath the helicopter? They'll give you a load of bollocks, obfuscation, doublespeak, and ask me about my claim. This isn't my claim, you're all morons. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in the Nathan Oakley or Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff.